Peace and respect. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. You're on mute.
There we go. That fixes that. What
there you go.
The show. I think that's the first time I've ever forgotten to unmute. Thank you so much for helping me.
Oh, well, you're welcome. Hey
Respect,
man,
brother. How are you? It's going great for me.
Really? Well, that's good. I mean, me, it's like, it's the usual.
Oh, I don't say I know what the usual is for anyone in particular.
Yeah.
Except for myself, of course.
Every day is pretty much the same. I guess they're good. Put it that way. That's the usual.
Yeah, the usual for me is contented, generally happy. I wouldn't say like bubbly and goofy or anything, but, really happy,
Well, that's good. I mean,
yeah.
So,
I really haven't had a bad day since 2012 when first our Father spoke to me.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. Because you have that peace of mind, so to speak. Right.
Yeah. Assuredness. I think that I don't have any faith. I'm completely absent of faith. In fact, I believe what's going on with me is assuredness. That is, I think that, persuasive to me does not mean persuasive to someone else, but I think I can evidentially show, and it cannot be avoided, that it was not human beings who wrote the Bible and other such works. And since it wasn't us, it's at least a decent question to ask, well, then who,
Well, yeah. Obviously there was someone who wrote it, but it's that's why it's called the Holy Bible, is because they're holy. It's separated from all the others because God had his hand in it, right?
Well, yes, but I don't think it's the only expression anywhere that God had his hand in. And that's what differentiates me and why I sometimes have to call myself a heretic, and other people would agree with that. That I think that God told all of these stories, and how we interpret them is the problem. So, just like you could say of any piece of literature, oh, I take this certain thing from it, someone else takes something else from it. I think that's what's going on, but the differentiation is cultural differences and lack of understanding of other cultures.
Well, I'd have to agree with part of that, because one of the complaints you always hear is, well, how come everybody has a different story or a different take on everything?
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the one hand, I can understand that because it's living, people kind of see it differently and they get different things out of it, and it has different layers of meanings, and that makes sense.
Sure.
But also, but it is true, there's a lot of things that are said that are not exactly accurate. People believe them.
For instance.
And then on the other hand, you would say, well, look, this is the word, it's the truth. So at some point, someplace, the truth is there. So I can't always understand as to why there are so many, different, you know what I'm saying, different versions of what people say things mean. I'd say it is a little bit of a problem, but it just has to do with that confusion, that Babylon, that's in the world that people are subjected to.
I know one part of it that's a problem. It's called copyright law. If you want to make money off of a book, and that book was already public domain, you have to change a certain portion of it on a regular basis. You have to change words in it. Okay. And a lot of Christians don't know this, but some of the newer Bibles that are out are copyrighted. If you check the cover, if you check on the inside of the cover, those are copyrighted works, which means they literally had to change the words, had to. But what's the last paragraph in the Bible say?
I don't know. I'd have to look.
Says don't add or take away from this book. You risk damnation.
Yeah.
So they literally under copyright law changed the words and included changing some of the words in that exact phrase in the Bible. So you can't get worse than that, I think.
Well. I mean, I'm not. You're saying that they didn't change the words.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
Well, maybe,
I mean, to the point where it changes the context.
Yeah, that I can believe. That's why you have to kind of find a good version that you believe is truthful.
Well, and that's some of the problem. I'm not suggesting that I'm going to go learn Aramaic and Middle and Modern Hebrew and Koine Greek. I'm not saying I'm going to go learn that stuff, but there have been scholars that already did that work.
Right.
And since it's literally word for word definitions, I can read those definitions and see if they agree with the context that I've adopted. And if they don't, I think I should drop that context, which sometimes means dropping an entire religion's dogmatic view of the text.
Yeah.
But you don't see people actually normally do that.
When it says don't change a jot, or I don't know, that's not jot and a tittle, but when it says what you were saying about don't change any of the words in the book, I think really it's talking about the book of Revelation, not necessarily the entire Bible.
Not necessarily the whole Bible?
Well, you could apply
Seriously?
it that way. Of course you can't. You're not supposed to change the words in the Bible. That's true. But when he says that,
I was going to say,
talking.
You wouldn't agree with the exact opposite statement, would you? And at the end of the book of Revelation, it reads, "And the Lord God said, feel free to change anything in this except for the book of Revelation."
Yeah, well, no, yeah, don't change my words, my meaning. I mean, obviously, you're not supposed to change any of the words, but when he says that, he's referring to the book that it's in, the book of Revelation, because it wasn't a Bible at that time. It was just the book of Revelation.
Well, that brings me to the question, who is the author of the Bible?
Well, I look at it as, look, he says the Word was in the beginning, the Word was with God, the Word is God, and this Bible is the Word. And the Word became flesh. So it's a living Word. So that's how I take it.
So you don't agree with consensus that that's talking about Christ?
The living Word would be, yes.
The Word made flesh.
Right.
It's the Bible, or it's Christ, or that's the same thing.
Well, the way it talks, it's all the same thing. It's all the same. Yeah, it's all the same thing.
So did the Bible write Jesus, or did Jesus write the Bible? What I mean is, which came first, Jesus' crucifixion or the story of Jesus' crucifixion?
Yeah, it would have to all be written ahead of time. Well, I don't have all the answers, but
no, it's not a matter of you having definitive answers. I'm trying to understand your position.
Well, I just go with the verses. The Word was God. The Word was in the beginning. So this Word, when he says the Word, it's like, well, what Word are we talking about? We're talking about the Holy Bible, as far as I know. Right?
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. I can't dissect it like, well, how did he do this? And why is this? I don't know.
Well, I guess ultimately we're not gonna know until God reveals it to us. But I think we all have opinions on these things, right?
Yeah. But I guess if God had his hand in writing it, then this would be part of God in a sense.
I think you can discern a lot about an author by their writing. I think.
Yeah, sure.
Especially if
author,
they're being honest. Yeah. Well, yes, obviously, what I would call the author is our Father, which is a different definition from the word God. But I assume that when you said God there, you meant someone with being. like physical being or at
Well,
least consciousness.
yeah.
Or did you not mean consciousness?
I would say being. I would say consciousness. Yes. Because how else could Christ be if I and the Father are one? The way I
Right.
see it, and it may be hard for people to track, is he is the only begotten Son because he is the flesh representation of the spiritual body of
Okay.
God, just as we are the flesh representation of our souls. So we are sons of God, but he is the only begotten, capital S, Son of God, because you follow? Because
So far, keep going.
yeah, because his flesh is the representation of the spiritual body of God. So, but when it gets really funky is like, well, you say spiritual body, are you saying spirit? Are you saying body? Well, it gets a little funky in there,
Oh, I had
but
a question before you got that far.
yeah,
I mean, we might get to that question, but I have a question even preceding that, I think.
sure.
If a person agrees, or I'll just say it this way, I think that the text says that God is patient, loving, caring, gracious, and having the set, because all those things are repercussions of the seven spirits of God, which are wisdom, knowledge, counsel, understanding, fear, power, and conservation. So those are all immaterial ideas. Things like respect is an immaterial idea. There's no lump of respect. There's no such thing. There's no lump of wisdom. All right. So in order that those things act on reality, there has to have some being with flesh in reality acting on those things. Does that make sense?
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, that's the way I see it. So
Yeah.
I think that if you do a marvelous job of understanding the intent of God and you carry out the intent of God and all of the rewards, the blessings of the Spirit from the seven spirits of God in you, then you are participating in God.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I think it's a silly question when people say to me, or I hear someone say, where is God? It's like asking, where is love? Or where is math? Or where is ideal morality? Where is that located? You know?
Well, yeah, because I mean, because he doesn't dwell in them, right? So they wouldn't
No,
know.
that's not what I
They
mean.
would,
What I mean is there's no physical, none of these things are physical things.
yeah, but that's what you would have the spirit of wisdom and understanding and
Sure.
power and such if he lived with you. So
Right. And
that,
you could exercise those things on reality. You see a child being beat up in the street by a drunken dad. You snatch the child away and you call the cops, for instance. You see? So that's a set of ideals that you caused to be active on reality, active on physical world. But I don't know of any case of a non-physical thing like a set of ideals or spirits that can act on a physical realm, which a lot of Christians claim is true of God. I don't
well,
see how that's possible.
no, but Richard, that's kind of what I was saying. That word spirit can be very funky and very tricky. Like I couldn't really
Sure.
completely explain it or understand it. It probably has several meanings.
Oh, it does.
Yeah,
That's why we have context. Of course, you can use the word spirit several ways.
yeah, definitely. And that's, yeah, it's a tricky word. Can be.
Americans claim that democracy is the spirit of America. That guy's really got team spirit.
Right.
Human
That's
beings
your
have a spirit.
right.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I agree. You're right. My
Well,
spirit
I was just
influenced
giving
you.
examples of things you said. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're right.
But I think the seven spirits of God, since they're listed in the Bible, are pretty easy to tell what he means by spirits of God, because it's a set of ideals, like things that should be valued, things that are truly useful for human beings.
Yeah.
Like none of the seven spirits of God is indifference. So didn't make the list. Or carelessness. That's also not on the list.
Right.
Right. Or disregard. Not one of the seven spirits of God. Disregard is not one of them. You see what I'm saying? So they're positive ideals are what's listed. Which means that since ideals aren't physical, I would say that it's not even claiming that the Spirit of God has any physicality, because it's describing things that don't have physicality.
Okay.
So
why
do you think that? Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I don't want to change the subject. Go for it.
Okay, we'll get to that in a minute then. You said, why do you call? But there was no L there, so I think you said, why do you call? I'll remind you of it later.
Yeah.
So I think the only way that in logic, in any kind of sensible way, that a set of attributes or ideals can be exercised on reality is if there's living beings who are exemplifying those and exercising it on reality. For instance, if I believe it is good to tell people I love them, and I say, hey, fifth trumpet, I love you, and that makes some kind of a positive change, even an extremely slight one, in your life, then my ideals have influenced reality, especially if that sort of thing spreads around and a community comes together and they start, like, I don't know, sharecropping garden or something in the middle of the city or whatever. Something positive happens anyway. That's how non-physical things interact with reality, through fleshly beings who are conscious. But I think it requires consciousness. Do you think that, I mean, you said something like God must be conscious or God is conscious or something like that. I don't want to misquote you, but you said
I would go
like
as far as to say, look, it's I mean, how am I going to define God? But I would say, look, he has a spiritual body, and that body looks a lot like ours. Otherwise, how could Christ be the Son of God, for one thing, the capital S, the only begotten Son? How could we be children, God, sons of God?
And in
And
his
when
image.
exactly.
Right.
And you even have verses in Ezekiel chapter 1 where he says, look, he's sitting on the throne, and he looks like a man. But it's not a flesh man like us. It's the spiritual body man, like his spirit, like our soul. You would call our soul a spiritual body.
Well, I'm not really certain why or how a spiritual body would look like one of these flesh meat sacks.
Well, I mean, because when you look at it, and you look at an angel, that's a spiritual body as well. And that angel always looks like a man. That's why they're sons of God.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Why should I think that angels don't have flesh?
Why should you think that angels? Well, it's not, like I say, it's not an earthly flesh. It's a spiritual body.
That's an assertion. I'm asking why I should agree with you.
I get it from Corinthians 15,
which reads,
it talks about two bodies. You've got the earthly body and the heavenly body. And the key word is body.
Right.
So that's part of it. And then, you know, I don't think you're ever going to find one verse that's going to say it exactly like I'm saying it. But when I put all the pieces
that's what
together,
context is all about. Yeah, I get it. Well, let me ask you well, let me just ask you, are you physically perfect right now?
Not really, no.
Oh, okay. So if you were physically perfect, would that be different from your present state?
I was physically perfect. I don't understand what that means.
Okay, if you're not physically perfect now, then being physically perfect would be a different state of being for you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So if the Bible says we receive a perfect vessel in heaven, and then the word vessel means flesh directly, would a perfect fleshly body be different from the fleshly body I have right now?
Well, okay, vessel, the body, not the earthly body, the heavenly body, the
Yes,
heavenly.
that's what I said. A heavenly
Oh,
body. That's what I said.
okay. Well, then we're kind of saying the same thing because that body would be incorruptible,
Yes,
and
that's
as you're
right.
saying, you might call it perfect in a way.
Incorruptible or perfect or ideal or however a
Yeah.
person wants to say it. The
Right.
text definitely says that we will receive a different body vessel in heaven, and that one will be incorruptible.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that pretty much. I mean,
Okay, so what part of that makes you think it is not flesh?
because he says there's two kinds. He says there's an earthly body and a heavenly body. So when the earthly body is gone,
Right.
what remains is the heavenly body. Because remember, there are two deaths, right? If there are two deaths, there are two bodies,
Okay.
right? Second death, death of the
No,
body, death of the soul.
not necessarily right. It's not to be taken for granted. Actually, I don't read it that way at all. I don't know how a person can read it that way. Actually, but aside from the example you just made, and back to what I was trying to ask you,
Yeah.
what kind of a vessel does God put a spirit in? Because it says that your spirit will inhabit a perfect vessel in heaven.
I would call that the heavenly body or a spiritual body. That are the terms that I would use. And that body is what he created as his children or his sons of God.
Right. Right.
So,
I
okay,
understand that.
cool.
Okay. So I don't see a way to get from the Bible that body doesn't have physical flesh. I don't see a way to get that from the Bible.
Well, I agree. That's the thing. It's a weird thing when you say spirit because on the one hand you can't see it, but on the other hand sometimes you can. So like when Christ is able to go through the door, yet you're also able to put your finger in his wound. The only way I can say it is, well, two ways. One, that's just the way it works. Two, when you look into dimensions, like when you add a dimension, you can't see it. Okay, you can't see that dimension, but it doesn't mean that all the previous dimensions are gone. They're still there. So that even though it's in a different dimension, it can also be in our dimension, is the way I've learned it.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I think Captain Quantum, or whatever the name of that character is, that's trying to explain quantum physics, is fundamentally flawed in their explanation of these different dimensions of reality, because there is no such thing as a one or two dimensional object. It's a concept, and it's a construct, an idea. It can't exist in reality. It never has. It never could. It never will. So they do a poor job of that, going directly into the third dimension to make an example of the second dimension and how you couldn't sense something in the fourth dimension from our three-dimensional understanding of things, and that's just not so. It doesn't even exist. But that's aside from the point. Okay, so I don't see any reason from within actually any spiritual text, but since we're talking about the Bible, from within the Bible, why I should think that angels or whomever ascended does not have physical flesh. After all, everything it says about them, they do. Everything ever. It says they have flesh. There's occasions of eating or refusing to eat, being offered being offered sex. I'll put it that way, politely speaking of the occurrence at Lot's front door at the gate of the city. Always these sights by physical eyes and physical sights. So even if the angel were translucent, not translucent, that doesn't really work, but radiating, like giving off light from itself, that doesn't mean it's not physical. You know, here's what I think actually happened, Fifth. I think what happened is because we didn't have telescopes a very, very long time ago, and the stars just appeared to be specks in the sky. And we could not see something unless it was very, very close to the human eye. That when these things were written, that was kind of the natural assumption of things, that if you can't see it, it doesn't exist. You know? Like, how could you consider something you can't see? Like, how would we ever consider a nebula or a cell without a telescope or a microscope? How would we ever, like, really even be able to say those words? You can't, you see. So I think that's the way the people spoke about it. And that view of it has been handed down generation to generation. And Christians have accepted that Judaic idea, but since then we discovered telescopes and microscopes, you know, and improved on them, and we have some pretty good ones now. And we now know that something could be gigantic and bright and reflective and moving, and you still can't find it because the universe is just really big. So just because they said we can't see heaven, thereby no physical heaven, doesn't mean no physical heaven. It just doesn't mean that.
Well, another way to look at it is, well, this is I don't want to talk about the earths, but when you talk about a new heaven and a new earth, at least we're talking something physical, right? So when you're in that new body, that heavenly spiritual body, you're still dealing with a physical earth. Right. So that would tell you that, again, there's physicalness to it. Right?
Wait! I may be misunderstanding something. Did you just say that you would have to be on Earth to be physical? Aren't you kind of assuming your premise?
No, I'm saying let's just say whatever kind of Earth you want to say, this Earth is physical.
Yes, it is.
The new heaven and the new earth is a physical earth. So when we are in a spiritual body on that earth, it would make sense that would just prove that, look, this spiritual body or heavenly body uses physicalness so you can sit on the rock, right? Yeah. Otherwise, why would it be a physical new heaven and a new earth?
Or set a batch of dinosaur eggs in the sun, or whatever it is you do.
Yeah, so... Yeah, exactly.
I mean, 2-3 of Genesis, and I think it might be 5-9. I'm terrible at remembering numbers. Y'all forgive me. Anyway, there's lines in the Bible that say God placed man into the garden, that placed man which he had created into the garden, which means created out of the garden. Okay, and he says that he owns every plant, or owned every plant and every seed before they were in the earth. Well, those are physical things that don't have a spiritual manifestation. If part of the definition of spirit is consciousness, I think plants and seeds are not conscious in any recognizable way that would matter to us. So then he's talking about physical objects not on this planet that he had ownership of. So then that requires physical support, you know, because you can't just send a tomato plant. You can't just have it floating around in outer space. It needs stuff like warmth, you know, and sunlight and minerals and water and stuff. It can't just stay out there.
Yep.
But Christians generally won't address that part of the text, although it's obviously saying God owns physical stuff. I don't know why everyone has such a problem with me saying God owns physical stuff. I mean, look, we're on a planet. Who's it belong to?
Yeah, didn't he created the heavens and the earth? So there you go.
It shouldn't be a problem. Do you not think it is really? It's pride. People don't want to say God could own other stuff besides this and me. They don't want to say that. It's like they have this super need to be super special. But I guess maybe that's just me. No, I didn't want to get into multiple Earth theory specifically, but although I find it very, very interesting. And you declined, so we won't, and that's all good. That's all fine. Would you agree with me that you have a spirit right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you agree with me you have flesh right now?
Earthly flesh, yep. And you might even say heavenly flesh in a sense, yeah.
Okay. Because I mean, the way that I look at it is that since I'm not perfect now, if I were perfected, that would be different from what I am now. So that's two different things. So to say that I had a perfect vessel, which is a heavenly body, doesn't mean it's not physical. It just, I don't know. I think people go too far when they say it that way. And I think it's just based in a lack of telescope, lack of understanding.
Well, it is. You can understand why it's confusing because you can't see a person's soul, but that same soul would be the spiritual body. So yeah, it gets a little wishy-washy. You don't know. That word spirit is, I don't totally understand it. I think there's more to it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot to it for sure. I mean, I think Daniel Dennett is ridiculous when he says that we're not conscious. And here's why I think it's ridiculous. Either he's exempt from that rule and he is conscious, or he's not exempt. It applies to him too, in which case he's not conscious. So I have to ask myself, is he actually conscious and he's just a liar? Or is he unconscious, in which case, why should I listen to him? I mean, do you listen to people that are unconscious or delusional or delirious? I don't
listen to them. Oh, I mean, probably won't say anything to them
because they don't make any sense. Just like Daniel Dennett doesn't make any sense. Now, he's a smart guy, but he's tricked himself. What he's saying is impossible even within himself. It's just like Darwin said, if what I am is an advanced monkey, this is not a direct quote, but gets the general idea across. If what I am is an advanced monkey, why should you listen to me? I mean, if Darwinism is true, Darwinism is probably the result of necessity of life and has nothing to do with truth at all. And if it's right by accident. What do you think of that?
It makes sense. I mean, but it goes to this whole idea. I mean, the whole idea of, things just evolving for the, it just doesn't, to me, it doesn't, just as a layman, it doesn't add up. So I would never consider it.
Right.
It's just, I don't care how many years you're sitting there waiting. I don't see how anything can evolve into a person. It just doesn't make sense. And I'm just looking at it as a layman. I don't know any science behind it.
Well, I've studied it a bit. I mean, I've not got a master's degree in it or anything, but I've studied it a bit, and I think I can represent the model fairly well, or I can represent the model fairly. I think I can do that. So what you just said was, you can't see large changes developing into new, distinctly different creature for whatever reason due to very, very tiny changes. Is that correct?
Well, that's one way of saying it, but it's not exactly what I said. I just said, it doesn't matter how long you wait. I don't see how anything could evolve into a person and all the things we can do. It doesn't make sense.
Okay.
But
could you see a tire ever becoming a car?
exactly. Well, but I guess that's not living stuff, but that's kind of the bigger point. It's like, why do I have to
Well, if I refer to
entertain
living
this?
stuff, I'm making the question. I have to refer to not living stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so a wheel was once invented, probably made out of some very simple material. Okay, but then a wheel's no good unless you like put a fork on the wheel and give it an axle. Because once it slows down, it falls over. So we got a fork and an axle. Well, now you're just pushing around a wheel. What good's that do? Why not put something on the forks so that this wheel can help you carry something? Well, around a wheel. What good's that do? Why not? Hey, Thomas, you've got the stream playing in the background, bro. Could you kill that? Thank you.
My bad. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. So what I'm saying is that eventually a singular wheel becomes a wheelbarrow, and then a wheelbarrow gains more wheels because people keep improving on things. We get bored easy. And you end up with a tricycle, and then you end up with a bicycle, and then you end up with a motorcycle, and then you end up with a car. So yeah, a wheel does become a car over time because of intelligent intervention in that case.
Yep.
So why can't we accept that small changes over time would add up to big changes?
Well, you can. That's just like I said. I just don't. Looking at it as a layman, I just don't see it happening.
I was using words "we," so it didn't sound like I was attacking you, because I'm not attacking you. But why don't you think, is my real question. Why don't you think that little changes can't add up to big changes over time?
In what? In a person?
In any given thing.
Well, like what? A cat?
Sure. Okay, a cat.
Well, and so over time, it's going to change into something else. Well, I just don't see that being reasonable.
Okay, is it possible for a cat to have different lengths of tails? Is that possible?
Is it possible for cats to have different lengths of tails?
Sure.
Yeah, I'd say yeah.
Compared to body size.
I have a question at some point. I don't want to derail your conversation.
It's not derailing, really. I mean, Fifth Trumpet was just entertaining me, really. He's just being a heck of a nice guy.
Well, it's somewhat pertinent. You, Fifth Trumpet, you don't believe in evolution. Like, you don't think it makes sense, like from a single-celled organism we came from, right?
Right. Well, what I said was, to me, it doesn't. It like no matter how long you wait, I don't see how something could somehow evolve into a man with all the things we can do and the thoughts and the emotions and everything. Yeah,
sure.
It doesn't add up.
Sure, I get that, and I don't want to straw man you here, but I'm just going to throw something out and see if it sticks.
Okay.
Does a human being made from dust or mud, does that make sense to you? And then on top of that, then a woman was made from one of his ribs.
It does because
okay.
Because you can press, what happens is you press the mud together to make the flesh, right? And then you breathe the spiritual body into the flesh.
Sure.
So then you would have a living body. And then as far as the woman,
sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. And then as far as the woman, well, as far as I understand it, yeah, you can take the DNA from one person and make another person. You could make Eve. You could take the curve or the rib and make a woman. But I can see your point. You look at that and you say, oh, that doesn't make any sense. He's made out of mud and this and that. And I can see your point. But for me, it does make sense.
I'd like to answer to it too, cynical, since you're going by cynical today.
I got to change that. I just realized that was for Smokey's benefit.
Oh, okay. It's okay with me anyway, whichever. Okay, so does it make sense to say that man is made out of clay? Is that makes it like man's a golem or something? No, not exactly directly. It doesn't. But let's take the opposite view of it. What if it read in the Bible, in the Old Testament, that the Hebrew people received from God, say, I don't know, 23, 25, 2,800 years ago or whatever it was, or maybe even 4,000 years ago, maybe as much as that. I don't really know. Let's say it said, and the Lord God fashioned man of diribonucleic acid. What if it read that?
I don't know. I guess it would be more believable, but
What? What do you mean to be more believable? What's diribonucleic acid mean?
DNA, as far as I know, is what you're referring to.
Yeah, but what's it mean to somebody 3,000 years ago, though?
Well,
exactly squat. It means nothing.
Well, I could push back a little bit on that too.
Go ahead.
If he's an all-powerful God and could make the dRNA, he could also make that well understood to his people, couldn't he?
Oh, okay. So now his job is to teach science. Sure, he could, but why would he want to?
I don't have any idea. I don't claim to know that. No idea.
I mean, what that means is, in order to publish a spiritual book, he'd have to bring everybody up to his level in science to make it perfectly literal and for them to understand it.
And that seems like a stretch to you for an all-powerful creator?
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's a straw man of my position.
Oh,
what
no,
I'm saying is,
I'm not trying to straw man you. I know
you're not trying to.
I don't think
you're being rude. Doubting you've never done that to me. I would not assume that of you.
All right.
But it is literally a straw man of my position. What I'm saying is that if we're going to be left innocents and we're going to be left time to develop somewhat naturally, and there's going to be a bunch of people on this earth, and you can't have a bunch of people all at once. It just doesn't work out. You can see that. But if you wanted a bunch of people to have this experience, you kind of can't introduce nuclear weapons in the ancient Near East. You kind of can't do that. See?
Why not?
I guess you're debating the idea of creation versus evolution, I guess, or a guided evolution of some type, or
creation versus evolution.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where you were going.
Oh, I think
I'm the guy that posted motorcycles. You got me with that.
Right. Well, a wheel does become a motorcycle eventually now, doesn't it? But
That's
anyway,
true.
yeah, it does. But that's a bad example of evolution. But if I used animals, then I'm begging the question. So I'm kind of stuck, using inanimate things to describe an animate object. But anyway,
that was a mind.
No choices.
I mean, it started, make just like the clock story in a way, which is interesting.
Yeah. The blind watchmaker, that clock, or the clock found in the woods, that one. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
All right.
I think that, but listening to the evolution idea, I know it's kind of weird because a lot of Christians that believe that man was created in full maturity, and then he lost the rib. No, I know I was following that earlier, but no, he was created in full maturity, and then so I don't know. I mean, to me, that seems possible. But
I'd rather go with what the Bible says about it, actually, rather than what Christians say about it.
Well, okay, now this is going to sound dumb then. Because I've always read the Bible thinking that it explained creation.
Okay. Let's talk just a little bit about the creation. If I'm referring to the word creation or created in the book of Genesis at the very beginning of the total work, the word created there is in the original language. It lends to reformation. It's like if I said I took some oak and I created a table. Well, okay, that's cool. I created a table. It's my table. It's my unique design. It's totally mine. But I didn't make the oak wood.
Right.
I didn't do that. I used existing materials. So if you look into the Hebrew, it actually lends to reorganization, not ex nihilo creation, which is interesting, right? But Christians don't want to read that. But that's the way the word was actually used.
What about when he talks about
real quick, Richard, may I share the link?
You can. I don't know how you're going to share a link
on the inside?
I mean, right now is kind of a weird time for me to make you a mod because I'm not that computer savvy.
No. I want to share your link to a Discord server that
shares
the
knock
link.
yourself out, man.
Okay, right on. I didn't want to step on your toes, is all.
No, that's fine.
No, Richard,
All right.
I had never heard about that reorganization, and I really literally have never heard that anywhere. But it does kind of make sense because
it does.
That's what I would.
The same word though used in the creation of the earth and heavens and the earth is.
Okay, so here's the problem. In English, we have a lot of qualifiers, right? I love her. Well, how do you love her? I love her the same way I love my car. I like to polish her up. I like her to look good on my arm. I love her like that. So we get all these qualifiers in English. In the Hebrew, they had a different word for each kind of thing. They didn't have a bunch of qualifiers. So when you translate it to English, it can come out love. Well, now you need to qualify what kind of love, but it doesn't really say. So now you got a contextual problem, and you've got the translators and their presupposition of context and them injecting the words. If you look into the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance and you look up certain words, there'll be no number, no definition beside it because that word was not in the original text. And what kind of percentage of words are not in the original text? Like 15%.
So like if you were using New American Standard or King James, I guess, following the Texas Receptus, I guess. But at any rate, you would find that for the most part, like words like that would typically be in italics, or am I wrong?
Yeah, they'd be in italics. That's right. How you know. That's exactly what the italics mean.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay.
Or in the King James, or just about anywhere else you see italics.
Right.
I just have to go back for a second. I'm sorry. I just have to say one thing. It is, I don't know if you're still there, Thomas, but it is kind of interesting that our bodies, everything we eat to grow our bodies comes from the ground. All the vegetables, the trees, the fruit, the milk, the animals, they all eat the ground or come from the ground. So
that was kind of my point. I mean, if God said you're made of DNA and proteins and amines and carbohydrates and lipid layers, like that's trash, man. That doesn't mean anything to anybody back then. So it's better to say you're made of dust of the ground, which is technically where all this crap comes from.
Well, and I thought I thought I countered that pretty well.
Okay,
but it's all good.
I just think it wouldn't make sense to be specifically correct in that kind of a book when the topic is really not. It's really not what's flesh made out of.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bruce. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, go, Bruce.
No. I didn't say anything. I don't think.
Oh, okay.
I must be thinking too loud.
And Fifth Trumpet is scientifically correct when he says there's a higher count than most places in an adult human body where you can find stem cells in the male is in the rib. That's a medical fact. And also, although we don't have the technology to do it today, as far as I know, or they're not telling us, to take a male's genetics, stem cells, etc., and make a female out of that. We did do it almost 20 years ago with the spiny rat, and you can look that up on NCBI or wherever you like. Some Harvard dudes took a spiny rat and made a female out of nothing but a male.
Oh, is there DNA in a female's rib? I know that. I can't help but ask.
Yes, there is actually. Yeah.
Okay.
It's about the same percentage. It's the same reason that you never hear Like doctors can remove a whole bunch of the liver, and if the human survives, or if they get treatment, they get dialysis and whatever, or not kidneys, dialysis. Sorry, if they get what they need, so they survive, their liver can regrow without scars to its complete original size, which is kind of why they don't worry about how much they cut away as long as the person is going to live. And also, no human being becomes colorblind, because you got stem cells there. You can damage your eyeballs as much as you want. You'll never go colorblind. Yeah. And there's 3 other places I don't remember or don't know.
They may go blind, but you won't go colorblind.
Right. Yeah. You can ruin your lenses.
Right.
You can ruin the optics in the front, but you can't go colorblind. It just can't happen.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something to do with the rods and the cones or something. I forget what the deal is with that, but
yeah,
but it's not going to change that makeup, I guess is the point.
Right. But the stem cells don't work everywhere in all of the eye. Like, and then an eye would be perfect forever. No one would ever need glasses. That would be cool, but it's not the case.
Nope.
It's really not the case. Evidenced by my glasses.
Yeah.
All right. So let me start a fight with you guys. Let's see. I would say if I can make an assertion about spiritual texts, any God knowing what human beings are, even if not claiming all of them were his children, but could save them, the only moral thing to do is to tell everyone the truth. How do you like that for an assertion?
So everyone should know the truth. Is that your point? Or
No, I say if a God exists, a God in morality would have to tell everyone the truth, or else be immoral.
I don't know. I can't answer questions like that.
Not necessarily. It depends on what your how do you define morality?
I define morality by what is objectively best for the human animal.
Okay, and how would the human animal know what was objectively best for said
Oh, we
animal?
don't know that yet. We're working on it, but science hasn't gotten that far yet.
So then we don't really know morality. Your definition doesn't really hold in that case, it seems.
No, it's a great definition for morality. If you want me to use my definition of morality to justify where we are in the history of humankind, I can't. We're somewhere in between beginning and end. I don't even know where we are.
No, I didn't really think I wanted you to justify anything there. What I was getting at is basically what I was getting at is if you're going to define morality as what is in line with God, then
well, how did God decide on morality?
I don't have any idea. I'm not sure what you're proposing exactly, I guess.
I'm proposing the only way that the text can be read is that God is a set of ideals that are perfect for human beings, and the morality described is what's perfect for a human being. It has nothing to do with any opinion of any God. It's just objectively true for what the animal is.
What if God has chosen a different morality?
I don't know how ideals choose things. Can you tell me that?
So God is an ideal, not an agent?
A set of ideals that agents participate in. That's what the Bible describes.
Okay.
For instance, the seven spirits of God, which you probably already know most of.
So God did or did not choose what was moral?
No. What animal we are chooses what is moral. The set of ideals that is described as God is just what is perfect for the human animal and is true in reality. That is, the human animal decides what God is.
Okay, then that would be subjective morality if the human animal decides what it is.
No, it's not what I said. I didn't say makes a conscious decision. I said the human and the animal itself decides. It's just like if I say goldfish objectively need to breathe in water. That's just a fact. Human beings
No, it's not.
objectively
Goldfish don't objectively need to breathe in water.
so they can die instead. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is good for a goldfish is for it to breathe in water. What is good for a human?
What I'm getting at is
what is good for a human is if it does not breathe underwater.
Okay, according to whom, Richard?
If the human being is going to survive for the next several minutes, it needs to not breathe water.
Yeah, but why is it necessary for a human to survive?
Okay, well that's another question.
Why is a human breathing water and drowning a bad thing?
Because I value you and all human beings, and in fact all life. I think all life should be given the chance to live.
Right, and now you're right back to right, and now you're
that
right
is
back.
Subjective.
Yes,
but you're cheating. You do understand you're cheating.
I don't know how I'm cheating, but
because you're switching the argument. You're switching the argument from what the animal needs because of physical things, which is what I said, to desires and wants and oughts and ises. I never said anything about all that stuff, but you switched the argument to that. That's cheating.
Well, that wasn't my intention, and I don't think I did, and now I think you're possibly straw manning me and putting words in my mouth. Possibly, yes.
Wait. Did you change it from physicality and morality when I was talking about physicality? Did you or did you not?
No, you brought up morality, Richard.
No, you asked me what is morality based in. I said based in the physicality of the creature. I was talking about physicality.
So then wouldn't it be you that changed it from morality to physicality and not me?
No, I still said that the physicality demands certain things. That's what decides the morality. And then you said morality is subjective, and you went back to the subjective argument, which is fine. It's just not what I said.
But you never gave me an answer as to why it was necessary for that organism to survive.
Maybe it shouldn't survive, but if it's going to, which is where you tied it back in to become the question of subjective objective. When what I said is what a human being needs is objectively true, and we don't know what that is.
We don't know what a human being needs to survive.
We don't know everything a human being needs.
To survive?
No, I didn't say that. I said we don't know.
I'm asking for clarification.
No, not. I think we understand survival pretty good. Not perfect, because people still get diseases and die of malnutrition and stuff. But
so what is it? This is kind of a silly question, maybe. So what is it that a human needs that we don't know?
You're asking me to tell you what we don't know?
Well, I know, that's why I said it was a silly question.
How would I do that? I can't do that. Sorry,
how would you know what we don't know the human needs?
Okay, I only know that these ancient stories are written by people, physical people, who know things that we don't know, and they claim to know the answer to that question. I do not know the claim that. I do not claim to know the answer to that question. I'm sorry.
Wait. Did you just say that ancient people?
Yes, ancient people
know things that we don't know.
Still know today, are alive and still know today greater science than we yet have achieved.
And how do you know that?
That's a long question, but sure. Okay. Because there are things within the text that people who were residing on this planet could not have known, did not know. We know they didn't know them. And thereby they could not write the texts themselves. So it seems to me that if there's greater knowledge in writing, then it's evidence of a more learned writer.
So I'm still confused. What did they know that we don't know?
No, not what did, what do. I'm talking about living beings. I'm not talking about people that died of old age or anything, okay?
No, I'm asking you about these ancient people. That was your claim, right?
I just want to be clear. They still know the same things they knew then.
Okay, so they're still alive.
Yes.
Okay, and they know things that we don't know?
That is, I believe they defeated what we call aging, which is telomere destruction and radiation and crap. But anyway,
Okay,
they have.
I just have to ask you. I have to ask you again. How do you know they know
for
things
longer
that we don't know?
Because they wrote about it.
Then wouldn't, if they wrote about it, then wouldn't we know it?
Only if they told you how to read the very encrypted, secretive, which you probably have problems with, but stories and what they indicate.
Okay.
They'd have to tell you what they meant by it.
All right, I'll let somebody else jump in.
I just need clarification, Richard. Are you saying, from what am I hearing correctly, that are you saying that there are people from ancient times that are still alive today, meaning that they're like 2,000, 3,000 years old?
No, I mean more like billions or millions or billions of years old, and not that they ever lived on this planet. No.
Oh, okay. So what about the books or the writings you were talking about that are encrypted? That I don't get. I am lost in that one.
Well, first, the Bible says of itself that it's encrypted. The 12 apostles are speaking to Jesus. They're like, what's up with that story? And why you like holding back on us? He says, I have meat of the word I've yet to give you because you were not ready to eat it and you are not ready still.
Okay.
And that's talking to the apostles. I mean, how do you like the average Christian going, oh, I understand everything in the Bible and all the depth of it. But the apostles didn't, but your average Christian does.
I don't know. There probably are some like that. They're usually considered cocky.
Yeah, right. I mean, those kinds of cocky people. I just think that's ridiculous to say that when Jesus had to take the 12 apostles aside and explain stuff, you know.
Right.
So the phrases meat of the word and manna, the hidden manna, I think those are real things that the Bible is talking about in and of itself and referring to itself. So
food, it doesn't come from the ground. Earlier you were talking about food and it all comes from the ground, yet that would be food that came from heaven.
What, manna?
God. Right.
Well, yeah, it depends on how you read the word manna and what it means to you.
Manna, or do you say manna?
What's that?
You were talking about manna, right?
Manna, yeah, like manna from heaven, that kind of manna.
Okay.
But also hidden manna. The Bible talks about manna as an intangible thing that you don't physically consume.
But why would anything be hidden if someone has the Holy Spirit? I know, strange question, but I've often wondered.
I don't think it's strange.
I saw somebody recently teaching about Bible codes and this kind of thing, and I'm like, well, why are you looking for all these codes when if you have the Holy Spirit, you'd think that would lead you and guide you into truth?
Well, maybe, maybe not. It depends on who the Holy Spirit is speaking to, where they're at in their path of learning about God, and how much they can take for another thing. I mean, it's like asking the question, if God, the angels, and the priests and kings of heaven are higher than us, and they say greater is the least in heaven than John the Baptist, and John the Baptist is pretty cool, cooler than most folks, but the least in heaven is greater than John. From their perspective, looking down on John, or goodness sakes me, right? They would look at me as like childlike, you know, in my learning. So let's look at it from like a perspective of a father to a child. The child's 3 years old and the child says, Daddy, where's babies come from? What's dad going to do? Well, dad's going to tell the kid the truth, but in a gentle, cartoonish kind of way, you know, not going to lie to the kid. He's not going to explain like the mechanics of sex and reproduction and ovum fertilization and stuff. That it'd be goofy if he did. It wouldn't make any sense to do that. Now, eventually the kid's going to learn that stuff. Maybe dad will teach him that stuff, but not right in that moment when they're a small child. What if we're just too proud and we think of ourselves as adults and we're just not?
Yeah. However, though, that I know that a lot of, well, this will sound like no fun, I realize, but a lot of times when people are looking for hidden meanings and such, it is almost like the word occult means hidden. So I don't know. It just makes me wonder if that's wise to do.
Well, it's probably not wise. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Broja. or doubting.
Well, it leads me back to the question I asked earlier. If you have this all-powerful God, and now you have beings that you know that are smarter than us, that have lived for a million or perhaps billions of years, yet those beings and that all-powerful God couldn't make DNA clear to us.
Gosh, dude, come on. Let's take the opposite view just for clarity. Let's say, for instance, that as soon as man stopped foraging for food constantly and became herdsmen and started doing like a gregarian society, as soon as that happened, right? God shows up, right? Or the angels and the priests and the kings show up, right? And they go, okay, blah, blah, here's the real deal. Here's everything. And then they leave. What the hell are we doing here? I mean, we'd all just be sitting there looking at our wristwatch going, I don't get it. Why'd they leave? And when are they coming back? And this is bull crap. Like, why are we stuck here when they got all that cool stuff? And we're stuck here. We can't even make this car they're talking about. Like, geez, how do I refine glass?
Well, why couldn't we? That's my question. Why couldn't they?
Because it would ruin it.
They could have taught us how to make glass, Richard, or an automobile.
It would totally ruin. You're missing me. It would totally ruin our experience. Just for argument's sake, let's say you had a teenage son. He's like 12 years old. He has never kissed a girl, right? He wants to, but he never has. And you explain it to him so thoroughly, he no longer wants to. He's like, oh, I'm satiated by your explanation. Thanks so much, Dad.
Well, I guess.
How do you expect him to ever like have kids or really grow up in that respect? Or anything?
I guess in that case, two things. He would be smarter than me, and I would not be all powerful.
Okay, I think that's kind of skipping the point.
I would want to see that explanation, because whatever it is one hell of an explanation.
It would be, wouldn't it? I think it would ruin the experience. You know, I think we can know too much too soon. I really do. And maybe you think that's shallow or biased of me or whatever. But I really think you could.
That was the first mistake he made with Lucifer. He was like, I'm not going to make that mistake again.
So
you're staying ignorant, bro.
So basically, we're stuck with what you think and what I think.
No, not really. I mean, I can show from within the text why I say what I say. Of course, there are parts of it that are my opinion, but there's a lot of it that's necessary extrapolation. I think I can show because it would follow. I mean, it just naturally, logically follows. You have to say that about the text. So now, you may not believe the text is true.
Right. Well, I guess
that part's your opinion, my opinion.
Right. I guess the major difference between you and I is I don't have a text.
I don't understand what you mean by you don't have a text.
You have a text.
Yeah.
I don't.
Actually, I've got hundreds, maybe even thousands. Never really counted them.
Okay, you have a text. You have a text that you adhere to.
Yeah, all of them.
That's got all this mapped out for you. All 66 of them. I mean,
there's a lot more than 66, bro.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Text, when we talking about religious text?
Are you like thinking of Jasher and Enoch and
all religious?
Oh my gosh, it almost never stops.
I just assumed when you were talking about the text, you were talking about the Bible originally. When you use the word quote unquote text, I thought that's what you meant.
I try to always put an S on that. I may have missed once or twice. I could have. It's possible.
All right.
But I try to say texts. I try to say that, but it doesn't always come out well. It's kind of hard to say.
Okay, can I push back on something else from our last conversation?
Of course, that'll be fun.
Clarification.
Go ahead.
Texts of all religions or texts of just Christianity?
I think that every society was given the truth originally, what they say about it and what other societies think about it is another matter.
So would you think that the Sumerians were given
Or told the truth
from the same God that
from the same God?
the Hebrew? It appears to me that it predates the Hebrew Bible. I know people can debate about it, but it's what it
Not really. We can't really debate. It takes a lot of bias to debate that.
I know. I've heard people do it, though, of course, but
Yeah, but it's just like their pride within their own belief system that makes them say that.
But I must say, Richard, that's very pantheistic of you.
Well, I think what we're talking about is pantheism.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what if I said Michael, whose name means him like God, with a surety, not maybe like God, like he's like God. That's what Michael means. I mean, doesn't that make Michael a demigod, for instance? And it just keeps going like that. Abraham, Israel, Moshe. I mean, the whole list of names throughout the Bible is like that.
Could it mean though, like God, meaning if I think of God, I think maybe someone who might be, well, I mean, there's so many different.
I'll tell you what the definition actually reads: Mikael, him like God, with a surety.
But I find this. You ever find? I don't. Unless I'm just looking for patterns, because humans do that. But when I first learned about the different names and what they mean in the Bible, and I started thinking of people who I knew had those names, did they share any of these same attributes? And when it came to Michael, I did find that the couple that I did know were quite controlling. They needed to be in control of everything.
Oh, that's terrible. What makes you say God is controlling? God's a set of ideals.
Well,
you can adhere to them or not.
Man, the last Michael I talked with,
gotta have some kind of
that
control.
I knew, he didn't marry just one guy. He actually married two guys
Simultaneously?
Does this set of ideals care whether I believe in it or not?
Ideals don't care about things, as far as I know.
Okay, so God. Now I don't want to straw man you here, but I'm going to lay it out.
Yeah.
If God is a set of ideals, and the set of ideals doesn't care whether I believe in him or not, then God doesn't care whether I believe in him or not. Is that correct?
Unless you're confusing the words God and Yahweh, which you might be because you've heard a lot of Christianity.
Clarification again,
Okay.
Richard. We speak
Because Yahweh would care, God can't. Just for clarity, doubting. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brojo.
So Yahweh, hold on. So Yahweh is not an ultimate being.
Yahweh is a collective of living fleshly beings participating in the ideals that are God.
Wait a minute. Now I'm confused. But I thought Yahweh was a jealous Elohim and would share his glory with none other. Or is that from my way out of context?
That's right. If you go outside of the collective that participate in God and you say, you guys are not my dad, great grandpa, great, etc., grandpa, if you don't belong to me, if you go outside of that, you're being untrue to what is true in physicality and reality, and you're a whore. Yes.
So Yahweh has a superior God.
No, not exactly. It doesn't really work that way. That's like me saying, doubting Thomas, you believe in exercising love to those you love, thereby love is more important than doubting Thomas, or vice versa.
Love is more important than me, I would say.
Your love is more important than you. See, that doesn't, but is it less important? It kind of makes no sense either way. You see what I'm saying?
Well, to be frank, what you're saying about Yahweh and this superior God, Yahweh is a set of ideals.
Yes.
That's
no. God is a set of ideals.
Yahweh is one of those ideals, would you
Yahweh
say?
is a council that believe and practice those ideals.
Okay, but Yahweh is he equal to God or less than God, or he's just a part of God?
Seriously, man, come on. That's the love of doubting Thomas versus the experience of the love of doubting Thomas.
Well, this is a difficult area here. You're
well,
hold on.
If that's the case, Richard, then God is Yahweh. And why are you trying to make the distinction?
Because I'm trying to be very, very specific, because you asked me a specific question. I'm trying to answer strictly biblically. Okay, here's the way I see it.
Okay.
There is no separation between doubting Thomas and the love of doubting Thomas. That's
Okay,
all one thing.
That doesn't
But
make
if
any
I'm
sense.
talking,
That
Well,
makes
how could
sense. That makes sense. I'm sorry. The statement you made, the statement you just made makes sense.
I know these things are hard, but I'm trying. Okay.
Comparing it
Yahweh
to,
is an action of God, are you saying?
Hold on. Let me finish this one first.
Okay.
Because this is hard. Okay. It's really hard. Now, from my experience being not doubting Thomas, right? If I experience the love of doubting Thomas, that's a different thing than doubting Thomas and his love. So from our perspective on earth, to look at God and to look at Yahweh from the outsider's experience is like all one thing, but it's not actually all one thing, because God is an experience of the collective Yahweh, which is why it's plural, Elohim. It's not singular.
so there's more than one God, or no?
There are plenty of living beings, according to the Bible and other religions, that are participating in the set of ideals that are God, which are objectively best for the human animal.
Objectively from
From what the human animal actually is, whatever that is, and I don't know.
From what
Richard, do you
what
think-
standpoint? Objectively, from God's standpoint?
No, from the objective objectivity, like what the animal actually is. I don't know why you keep going back to my opinion about God or God's opinions. God doesn't have opinions.
What does he have?
Wait, hold on, Thomas, because I wanted to get some.
All right, go ahead.
clarification. Yeah. Because are you saying that God is a separate being from its creation? If so, because then that would not be pantheism.
I'm saying the collective Elohim Yahweh,
So not
collective of very powerful human beings, just like you and me, except they're way, way more advanced and educated. And they're not like dying of old age and stuff. They figured all that crap out. Okay.
and they are
And
Yahweh.
They participate in a set of ideals. Yes, they are Yahweh, and they participate in a set of ideals that we call God.
Now this is kind of weird, but are you saying the angels are Yahweh, or I'm not sure that I understand.
Yes. Any being that is a human being who is grafted into the vine, grafted into this thing that we right now call heaven or Summerland or several other names, are given the technology, the millions, billions of years of science is just laid in their palm as a gift, as in their fingertips, and they don't have diseases, they don't have suffering, they don't have aging, they don't have that stuff.
Okay, can I ask you a really quick question before I forget?
Sure, bro.
Okay, you just said these beings had all the science and technology laid at their fingertips. Okay, then, but earlier you said that doesn't work. That doesn't work with humans.
What doesn't work?
You said we couldn't, like, when God created us, when we came out, I think the way you phrased it was, okay, we just come out of hunters and gatherers, and then all of this stuff is laid at our fingertips.
Right.
That wouldn't work. But now
Right. Wait.
hold on. Now
I
you just
understood
said,
the question. You can stop. You don't have to say it 3 times, bro. I get it. Come on, man.
I didn't
You know
even
me.
finish. I didn't even
Yes, you
finish.
did. You finished like a minute and a half ago. I can answer it. If I don't answer it, tell me no, you're wrong. You're stupid.
Well,
go
I
ahead and
just
tell me,
think,
but let me try.
I'm just going to tell you right now, I think it was rude of you to just interrupt me like that just then.
I
That's
know, but
all.
it's just you start repeating yourself, man.
That's what you told me last time we talked, Richard.
Well, maybe I think it's true.
You must. And if I can't finish a
Okay.
thought or finish my sentence, and if my
You're
repeating
right. It
myself
is. It
bothers
is
you,
at
I
least
should
rude.
just-
Could you
I
go
should
ahead
just
and
leave.
finish then? Could you go ahead and finish then?
If all of the science and technology can be laid at the feet of these spiritual beings that you claim, and that's
Mhm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
but it can't be laid at the feet of the other humans, how does that make sense?
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. They had an earth experience too, where they were ignorant of these things and had not yet received them. And how far back does it go? Right? Because that's it. Ultimately, that's the question, the infinite regress, right?
Well, no, that doesn't make sense either, Richard.
What do you mean?
You didn't qualify it with they've had a whole bunch of years to learn this shit. You said it
You
was
hadn't asked yet.
You said it was bestowed. You basically said it was bestowed upon them. They were given that technology. Am I wrong?
I'm just making sure you're done.
Okay.
Apparently, I wasn't pausing big enough before. Okay. So here's the way I read the Bible. It's describing a class 4 Kardashev civilization terraforms an Earth, puts genetically restricted people on it. It lets that cook for about 27,000, 30,000 years, something like that. Okay. Took a long time to get the planet to that stage, but that's the important part, the part we're worried about. And then they return and go, yo, want to be part of our deal? People are like, yeah. Some people are like, no. So if you say, yeah, you get everything they've already established. If you say no, well, you die with the planet. That's basically it.
I suppose one of the things I'm kind of having a hard time with is the idea that angels would know everything.
Well, it depends on what you mean by everything. And I don't know who, I think they've got things figured out that the human animal requires. And maybe they have other consideration for other kinds of animals and stuff. But I mean, at this stage of our existence, I'm worried about like what's going to keep us going.
Okay.
But I promise you, it ain't this planet poisoned by and infected by, sometimes accidentally and purposefully.
Right.
And global, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, yeah. You know,
Ain't going to happen here.
Okay. Can I push back? This goes back to an earlier conversation.
Yeah.
That we had maybe a couple weeks ago. So we were put here. Okay, we're hunters and foragers and gatherers, and somewhere along the line we have science. However that happened. Okay. So how did that work? How does science work? And this is going to probably feel like I'm trying to trap you. I'm not really trying to trap you. I kind of am. I'm just trying to get
with me.
I'm trying to get more of an idea of how you actually think about this subject. So how does science work?
Well, first, my mom was a high school science teacher. She graduated cum laude, and I spent a lot of my time at her college in her science classes. First, I'll say that.
Okay.
Then I'd say, do you want me to recite the scientific method? Is that what you're asking me?
No, what I'm getting at, Richard, is you in that conversation that I was referring to, you seem to have a problem with a high school student being tested like an experiment in a laboratory, and the high school student comes up with the wrong results, and that somehow led you to believe, and I'm not trying to straw man you here, please lay it out for me, that somehow led you to believe that science is biased because the teacher already knew the answer to the experiment.
Can you describe the word bias to me and give me just an off-the-cuff definition of what bias is?
Bias would be leaning towards a viewpoint, I guess.
Okay, what would cause a person to lean toward any specific viewpoint?
I would say experience, past experience.
Past experience. How about preconceived notions? How about the opinions of others? Would those all qualify?
Sure. And here's
All
where
that
I'm
was
going to
perfectly fair.
Yeah, all that was perfectly fair, and I understand where you're going, and I'm going to push back right now.
Okay.
How did we come to science in the first place? How did we come to that experiment in the lab originally, right? That experiment was done somewhere else originally, and if it's in high school, I'm guessing it was probably done 100 years ago. How did the person that discovered that come up with that answer, and how is that biased?
Okay. Let's say I said the word Picasso, and you're an appreciator of art, like fine art.
Guernica.
And you know what? What?
Guernica. It's my favorite Picasso.
Oh, I have no idea what that means. I'm not a fan of Picasso. But anyway,
Okay.
You are a fan of Picasso. You would recognize a Picasso or a good imitation. All right. You would recognize that, right? You'd think,
Sure.
oh, that's a Picasso.
Sure.
Because you know what it's supposed to look like.
And well, it
So-
depends. Yeah.
So if a human being stays in a study long enough, they kind of get an idea of what they should get, don't they? Isn't that a presupposition? Yes, you get this way.
How did Marie Curie, I forgot what she discovered off the top of my head.
Something to do with germ theory, wasn't it?
No, radiation.
Radiation. Yeah.
Radiation. Darn.
Was that, was that biased? Did she have a teacher like putting that preconceived notion in her head? I'm just
No,
not
I think
sure.
I think every great innovation, we got nudged by God, which is why Edison, Tesla, Einstein, and countless others all said something to the effect of, I take these ideas from the ether, or I can't justify this. I don't know why I have it. Or I wasn't even working in my lab. I wasn't even thinking about this when suddenly.
Okay,
That's why all of them said those things.
so how does all of that make teaching science biased? I'm not.
No, what I just said is the great leaps forward, like, who'd you say, Marie or Mary or whatever, something or another?
Madame Curie, Marie Curie.
Madame Curie.
Yeah.
Marie Curie. Yeah. You suggested that she was not, that she was doing something very, very normal when she did something very, very abnormal.
No, I wasn't suggesting that at all. I was suggesting
was she following the scientific method? I'll start from scratch. Was she following the scientific method? Was she not?
Was she taught that, Richard?
Was she taught the scientific method, and was she following it? Yes, no.
Was she taught what she discovered about radiation?
That's called a discovery.
Right. So how is that bias? How is science bias?
Okay. So I don't think that these leaps forward are a natural progress. Why they're called a leap.
Sure.
Okay.
So how is trying to teach a student in high school, how else would they learn the scientific method? And how I don't, it was like, Richard, if it seems to me, if what you were saying was true about how high school works and how science works, we wouldn't have satellites. I wouldn't be able to communicate.
I don't know why you'd say that. That's not at all what I said. I don't know why you think that's what I said. What I said
that's why I'm asking you these questions. That's why we're having this conversation.
Could I
guess? Go ahead.
If I could just kind of skip to the end a little bit, and you can stop me if this isn't the end of the conversation.
Okay.
We have biases and presuppositions. Some of those are imposed on us by our past, standing on the shoulders of giants, etc.
Okay.
Feel me so far?
Sure.
Okay. When we describe what we should expect to see, that is a presupposition based in possibly the several experiences and the kind of taste for what they should see of some past scientist. for instance, but
Sure.
it's definitely bias.
Could I stop you for 1 second?
No,
All right.
no, because like you went on forever and I don't even get to answer it.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So it is by definition biased and presuppositional to say you should expect this from a scientific experiment. Okay. By definition, it is. Should
That's
we
not
expect
what's
it?
happening.
Okay. Would you give your definition of presupposition, because your definition of bias fit a scientific method perfectly?
The last time we had this conversation, and I'm probably going to repeat myself again.
Yeah.
And if you think I'm just repeating myself, then I'll leave because it's pointless.
I love you, man. I'm trying to like go with this.
The point I tried to make to you last time was the student in that laboratory is not working off of presuppositions.
Right.
The student in that laboratory is doing an experiment, right?
Yes.
That doesn't fit your paradigm that you just
It does
described.
perfectly.
Okay.
Have you heard of the 100th monkey? Do you believe it's true?
I don't know. I'd have to do more research on it. When I first heard it, I thought that's really interesting. Did a little research and thought, maybe. So
Do you know that it's true?
Do I know that it's true? No. Sorry. Go ahead.
You jump on the end of every one of my sentences, and then if I do that to you, you get mad at me, and you threaten to leave. Do you realize you're doing that? You don't give a half a second pause.
If I am, I apologize, Richard.
I mean, I want to be passionate. I want you to be passionate, but goodness sakes, man. Then if I do it back to you, you get mad at me and you accuse me of being unfair when you started it. Okay? Can we just like be nice to each other?
I thought we were being nice to each other, and I didn't accuse you. To be fair, I didn't accuse you of being unfair. I accused you of being rude. And if I've been rude to you, I apologize.
Okay. Can we start tonight over where the conversation was already gotten to? Is that cool?
Sure. Go.
Okay. I have a lot of respect for you, man. I think you're really bright. You've been more than fair to me. I say some pretty crazy stuff. I get that. Okay. I'm not delusional about it. I know what I hear with my atheist ears, what's coming out of my mouth. Okay. When we have done subject testing on like rats and build a maze and introduce a rat to that maze for the first time, because some human like just made up a maze, right? The rat will start at a certain speed of the maze, right? And that rat will get faster at it because, well, it's learning stuff, right? Here's the weird part. The rat in the cage that never saw it, if you take that rat out of the cage after the first one gets pretty good at it, it'll start where the first one left off. You could take that rat maze and send it overseas. And as long as you send it to a lab that has a like rat, same species of rat, it'll pick up where the second one left off. What do you think of that?
I think
Did you know that
they're picking up the scent of the prior rats?
You can recreate a brand new, anyway, the same maze. It doesn't have to be physically shipped. It doesn't matter. If human beings on the mainland have monkeys around them and the monkeys learn a physical habit, they pick up on something humans do, the island monkeys that never saw any human ever do that they'll start exhibiting that behavior. Worse than that still, if you look this up, I'm not joking you, man. Chemical reactions at the same temperatures with the same amount of materials, exactly as much as you can reproduce precisely the same thing. The first few times we have done chemical reactions, they actually got faster, create a bell curve, and then they level off. When we say that science lab, blah, 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 is supposed to be this, we're talking about that level place that happened afterward. There is funky stuff going on here, man. And we do not have great explanations for this stuff, except there's some kind of spooky action at a distance going on. And that's the best we got to explain it. I'm talking about those spooky actions, how they affect what we expect to see. And then we see what we expect to see. And then we say there's no spooky actions. Floor is yours. Doubting, if you're talking, you're muted.
Oh, no, I was just trying to give somebody else a chance. It's been a while. It's probably been about 5 years since I looked into the 100th monkey. And I'm not quite sure it lays out as quite as cut and dried as you're making it.
No, it's more complicated. You're right.
So I would have to do a little bit more research on that.
It's not cut and dry. It's not 100%, but we should see 0% of the behavior.
Don't get mad, but isn't that biased?
What, that an unlearned behavior you should see 0% of? I don't know if that's biased. It seems realistic.
No, just the term "you should see" is biased.
Yes, it is. But I'm speaking against what we quote unquote should see. That's what I'm speaking against when I say the scientific method is biased in and of itself, and it can't help it. What else could you do? I mean, it's the best we got. It works pretty good for a lot of stuff. People say, oh, example gravity, example electricity, example satellites, example atomic clock. This is all bullcrap. These aren't examples of anything. All this stuff that we're taking advantage of, we see it happen time and again.
Well, those are all really good examples of the progress of
what?
science.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
No, what's gravity?
What is gravity? Do you want
Yes, sir.
do you want me to just look up a definition, or?
No. Not what does gravity act like, which is the definition you'll look up. I said, what is gravity itself?
Sure. Gravity is a label that we put on a force that I'm not sure if we fully understand it, but it's pretty well understood. I mean, as far as I know, Isaac Newton when he had the whole Apple thing going on, he was able to calculate, I think he was able to calculate gravity between either the moon and the earth, or the sun and the earth, perhaps. But then when he threw all the other planets in there, he threw up his hands and said, that's God.
Which I don't think it is God, but anyway.
Because at that time, the math was too complicated to explain how all the planets interact. And it is a very complicated math equation, which we now understand. And as far as I know, it's one of the problems that physics students possibly, when they're going for their masters, that is one of the problems. One of the mathematical problems they have to solve is, if Earth is here, where is Mars going to be? And why? What's the mathematical equation between all of the planets, and how does gravity work on the 9 planets and the sun?
I think something I heard interesting a while back, I'm not sure I can remember this exactly right, but Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about dark energy, and was saying that you could call it dark or gravity because it holds everything together. And what I thought was kind of interesting about that, when I thought about it, was just that, well, the Bible talks about God holding everything together. I don't know, just a thought. It made me at least wonder.
Doubting, I think if you read a definition for gravity and you look at what the definition is actually saying, it's describing a set of symptoms. Okay.
Yeah.
And
well, go ahead.
Doubting,
Sorry.
come on, man. Okay, it's not describing what generates gravity. In order to know what gravity is, we'd have to know what is generating the gravity, not how it acts.
the mass and the distance.
Oh, is that true? Are you sure?
As far as I know, yeah. If I jump out of an airplane, I am going to start falling at 32 feet per second, and I'm going to accelerate at 32 feet per second until I reach
Maximum velocity.
maximum velocity.
Which is based on air density and resistance.
Yes, in a vacuum. There you go.
In a vacuum, you die. You died before you ever hit. But anyway,
And that's gravity. Gravity is the word gravity is just a label.
yes, it is just labeling. We don't know what's causing it, and that's my point.
Sure.
We know how to use it a lot. It's predictable in use, in functionality, in symptoms. Very predictable. We use it all the time. That is no evidence we know what gravity is. What's light? You want me to keep going? Because we don't know crap. We know how to use stuff.
No, your point is made. Yeah, sure.
We know how to use stuff. We don't know crap.
Well, I think we know. I think it's pretty cool that we know you fall at 32 feet per second per second.
Sure, gravity does that. It's
And then
predictable.
If you shoot a bullet out of a rifle and drop a bullet from the same height at the same time on a level surface, both of those bullets are going to hit the ground at the same time. We know that.
Wait. That's not necessarily true. Is the barrel rifled?
Oh, it's not going to change.
I'm not sure.
Yes, it does. The Coriolis effect causes bullets to rise. Leaving the barrel rise.
Effect. Well,
They actually go further than they would.
What direction you're shooting in then?
Wouldn't the Coriolis effect?
That's kind of a complicated issue, though.
The Coriolis effect would be in play whether or not the barrel was rifled.
But it doesn't matter. I think what Doubting Thomas meant to say is in a vacuum.
Basically,
Coriolis
yeah.
effect applies to more
when
than
it's
just
climbing,
the
if it's
equator.
veering off, you're gonna have more effect on one side than the other of the bullet, so therefore it's going to climb or drop faster. If that's what you're getting at, I think with the car.
No, it doesn't matter which way it spins. It will
weird.
climb because it's spinning.
Well, yeah, but because it's spinning, you have the wind. You have friction with the wind on the left side and on the right side of the bullet. So it would be relative as to whether it's pulling to the left or right, whether it's going to be picking up more in the air on one side than the other. That's what would determine whether it would climb or drop faster. You know what I mean? Because
Okay.
That's what
I'm just right now. I'm just going to say I suggest people look into it. That's all I'm going to
Sure.
say.
Well, I was just countering the fact that you said we don't know crap.
We don't know crap. We know how to use stuff.
Well, we know lots. Do you
The
know
atomic?
what?
Did you
do you
know
know
the
what-
atomic clocks don't keep the same time? Did you know that?
I was just going to ask you if you knew what time dilation is.
Yes, I do. Basically, I don't understand it.
Okay, we know it.
I understand some of the effects of it.
Sure, we know that well enough to make the GPS system work.
Yes, we do.
So
That is, we know how to use stuff. We don't know why stuff works that way. Nothing. We're not as cool as we'd like to think we are, is all I'm saying.
but why?
And there
I'm not
is
sure
weird stuff
why-
going on. We don't understand it.
Sure.
Well, to say science has it all down pat and science is predictable and this is
I know.
definitely what's going hold on. This is definitely what's going on is just not true. We have come to depend on a set of symptoms that are predictable.
I never once claimed anything that you just said. Not once.
No, it was not a direct quote. It wasn't supposed to be. I was semi tongue in cheek kind of playing. Okay.
Okay.
Look at science gives us some neat toys.
Yeah. But all these neat toys are based on symptomology. You know, you can weigh, a gyroscope. That's the right word. You can weigh a gyroscope and put it on a counterbalance and lock it in place where the counterbalance is perfectly lock the counterbalance in place and get that gyroscope going and unlock the pivot point, and the gyroscope will jump to the top of its mechanical ability. You know that? The gyroscope, because it's spinning, is effectively lighter. You have to get it spinning pretty fast though, over something around 5,800 RPM.
Yeah, videos of people swinging them around are kind of cool.
Yeah. We have no idea why that happens. That's a symptom we can't figure out why that would be true. It is true. You can do it yourself at home.
Oh, I thought it was acceleration is equivalent to being sped up by gravity. So they have equal effects.
Why?
Oh, why? They're just equal effects.
Yeah,
it really doesn't.
It can be more than equal. It can be more than equal if it's spinning fast enough, actually. But it doesn't explain why something would be effectively lighter because it's spinning.
No, is it once it reaches that speed and maintains it, does it continue to do that, or only when it's, because you were God just said about acceleration, but you wouldn't have acceleration once that speed is met and maintained, would you?
Right. That's not acceleration by definition.
Right.
You're correct.
I'm not good with this stuff, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about during acceleration. I meant as it's gradually slowing down, it can, if it is effective, it's not lighter, but it's effectively lighter.
Well, is it slowing down or maintaining the speed?
While it's slowing, there's friction. There's some friction in the gyroscope. It is slowing down.
Interesting.
Why doesn't it jump off a table?
Well, I would say it is not a stronger than all of the gravitational force, but it decreases some of the. I don't know why. Nobody knows why. But I could show you non-cutaway film footage of people doing it. I mean, there's not a hole in it. It like actually works. It's like almost semi-anti-gravity or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't claim to understand these things. I'm just saying people who claim to understand these things are full of crap. And I don't have to understand what gravity is to understand the difference between a set of symptoms and a definition. There is no definition for gravity on this planet. If you read a definition, it'll be a set of symptoms. 100% of the time, you can't find a definition for gravity. No one has one. But yet you'll hear things like atomic clock and slingshotting around planets, all these claims. That's all symptomology. I'm not impressed.
Oh, we can't.
Should we just if you're not impressed, what would you have us do away with the scientific method and not try and figure these things out?
Not at all. Not at all would I say something like that. I think our slow and gradual climb up a very, very shallow slope is necessary, and we need the experience, which is why we're allowed it. But I think we're way too proud of ourselves. We claim way too much that we don't have.
Huh. I'm not sure who's claiming that.
Okay. Let me ask you. At the beginning of this conversation, did you feel confident in the definition of gravity, that it is a definition of gravity? And do you still feel that way?
Absolutely.
I don't know why you talk to me then. I don't get it. I just showed you. You just read a definition. I showed you. I pointed out that it is a symptom.
No, I never read a definition.
You've never read a definition, or you didn't read one tonight?
No, I offered to read you one, and you said no, it wasn't necessary.
Yeah, it's not necessary. I thought you read it to yourself, though. I could maybe miss that. You started to read it aloud, and I said we don't need that, or at least I thought you were.
So I'm not sure. I'm still not sure what your point is.
Wait, it was the definition not it's a force that does?
Yeah, a force that does. What's the force?
Gravity.
Well,
that's not answering the question.
A force is just a label given to the four fundamental forces of the universe, right? It's a name.
Yeah. Okay. So you're gonna. I understand you cannot test a fundamental force with another fundamental force. You
What
understand
are
that
the
too,
four
Cerberus?
fundamental?
Or is that
True,
mistaken?
What are the?
I think when you're saying it's a symptom, I'm assuming you mean that it's something that it does, right? And that's
Right.
your problem with the definition.
It's defined by something it does, right?
The thing is, like, who am I? Right, I am the sum of all things that I do. Right, there is no difference between the list of all things that I do and me.
Okay, are you also the things you don't do?
I would say in some sense,
because
yeah.
otherwise you're a murderer.
I would say in some sense, I am a list of things that I don't do.
Is gravity a list of things it doesn't do?
But it would be non-murderer, right? So I am non-murderer.
You are a non-murderer, yes.
Right, so all those things are symptoms, as you're saying. Right, a full description of me is every symptom that is me.
I think that's going to be another conversation. I think you're more complicated than that, but that could just be my opinion. I'm going to leave it at my opinion right now. You're more complicated than that. I think it makes for a bad example using a human to compare to gravity.
Well, let's say a rock. How about does that?
Let's just stay with the fundamental forces. They're on equal footing.
Okay. Well, I was trying to make an analogy, right? But let's say then, the electromagnetic force, right? The sum of everything the electromagnetic force is everything that it does.
Yeah. What's generating it?
Well, it exists. There is no generation.
What do you mean it exists? Are you saying something comes from nothing?
No, I'm saying something exists. I'm not implying whether it always existed or whether it was created or not.
Okay.
I'm saying
why does it exist right now?
Why would it need a why?
No, I'm just curious. Why does it exist right now? It does. I didn't say it needs a why. I need a why. Can you tell me why it exists right now?
There wouldn't need to be a reason for it to exist right now. It just does.
So things exist without reason.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't see any reason why they couldn't.
Did you say the four fundamental forces of the earth or the universe?
Neither one.
Nature.
You said of nature.
Oh, okay. Can you just tell me what they are real quick? I'm just curious.
So you have the weak nuclear, the strong nuclear, gravity, and the electromagnetic system.
Okay.
I was wondering
if that's all of them.
Yeah, well, if there could be ones that we don't know about just because their effects don't apply right where we are.
But what do we do with electromagnetism? I know it's going to sound maybe stupid, but where do we get energy from electromagnetism by itself? Go ahead.
Servers probably get a better answer though.
I think by energy, do you mean electricity? Or
even electricity. Where do we get it by itself from electromagnetism as an energy? Itself.
Okay, so the present we understand this as best as I can say it. When energy transfers through a resistor, it causes an electromagnetic field around it. Okay, if you make coils, what's that?
Like a coil or something, right? Like I understand guitar pickups and how to make a motor or a generator or an alternator, whatever. I get that.
Well, it's physical movement. It's actual physical movement.
What I mean is that generally, when we make electricity, we take energy from another source. We create electricity. We don't, and if we're getting energy from an alternator or generator, something powering it. We don't just get energy from that I know of, other than maybe falling out of a plane or something. But it's just bring it back up.
You took fuel to get up there on the plane and get
the
plane.
Right, that's what I mean. It's like it's kind of odd.
Right.
We don't just use electromagnetism as we see it, as we understand it. At least that I know of. I can't think of anything. We use it all the time, though. I recognize that we are right now.
Well, what you're saying essentially is we're translating one kind of energy into another, and you're correct.
Right, that's what it seems to me. I mean, I use it all the time. I mean, a lot of us do. But I mean, in all of it, whether I'm working on things, running power tools, or playing with guitars, speakers, whatever. I mean, yeah, we are. If we're listening through speakers, electromagnetism. But it all takes energy, or we use something to create it. We don't really pull much from it that I know of. Well, of course, sunlight, we can get something from that as far as light.
That's not free either, though, really.
Why?
Because the sun is getting smaller.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
So I mean, we are kind of actually pulling energy from it, because it's, to the best of my understanding, the way we understand it anyway, it's a field, and that there are vibrations in that field that are, they're photons. That's the carrier types of photons
within gravity or within
electromagnetism.
Well,
right, and because of this, it gives different effects to different types of matter, and effectively matter are the vibrations, right? And we're using the vibrations in the field, but the field itself doesn't really have energy.
That's what I mean. I mean, where do we see that in nature, that we're seeing energy emitted through electromagnetism, or something that we could get hold of and use as energy, as an energy source?
Oh, now you qualified it and ruined my answer. Darn.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say homing pigeons. They know where they are by electromagnetism. They can sense it. They literally have a thing they can feel.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so yeah. I would say it's things have energy in a sense because of it. It itself does not have energy.
Right. It's all about the flow, to be more exacting, right? That is, electromagnets will push a chunk of aluminum, but pull a piece of iron. So
they'll push aluminum?
They'll push. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's how the E-train works.
Huh.
The electromagnetic elevated train has an aluminum plate on the bottom that tracks electromagnets. That's why
so the aluminum plate is actually repels the magnetism, or
magnetism will push, the flow of magnetism will push aluminum away and pull iron closer. It's true.
Well, I didn't know that. I never saw it. Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of an anti-magnetism thing. Well, by the way, I'm not sure we know why that is either. We can see it happen. We can use it. Don't know why it happens.
I never thought of that, because I mean, we use all kinds of aluminum around magnets, so that you don't have, because it's not affected generally by it, but I guess by massive amounts, maybe something there. I know that it works as shielding material, as does copper, and maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
Observationally, the flow of the magnet cannot penetrate the aluminum and pushes it away, where it does penetrate the iron and pulls toward. Why? I don't know.
Weird.
Yeah. Anyway, we're coming up on 2 hours, and I wasn't trying to go all night, but I sure appreciate you guys coming in and Doubting Thomas. I know that you and I are passionate, and we're kind of, I'm not going to say personality clash. I appreciate you a lot, and thank you for your passion. I'll just say that.
I apologize to you, Richard. You're absolutely right, and I take your criticism. Your criticism is well founded, and I accept it. And I did cut you off several times.
That was big of you, bro. Thanks. And I probably did the same thing in return without thinking about it. I should have thought about it.
And I do appreciate you, and I appreciate the effort that you put in to having this hangout and allow me to be here. So, we're cool.
All right. I think so. Thank you for feeling the same. I appreciate it. Hey, I'd hug the guy right now. I'm getting a little bit misty. Don't make fun of it.
You can make fun of it. I'd hug you right now too, Richard.
Right on, bro. Right on. All right, guys. Let's hear people's closing thoughts. Fifth Trumpet was the first one in. Fifth Trumpet, you got a closing thought?
No, but thanks.
All right, so I think the next one was, thank you. I think the next one was Doubting. Doubting, you have a closing thought or something you'd like to promote?
No, I have no channel, no promotions. Just thanks for being here.
Thank you. Then I think Bruce was next.
Well, I came here to learn think about God and such, but I must admit you're going to have me studying aluminum now for a while. So thank you.
Cool. You're welcome. You're welcome, Bro Joe.
Thanks for the conversation, and yeah, stay positive.
Right on. Right on. Cerberus, before we wrap it up.
Oh yeah, I know. Got
Hey,
much.
sorry. Wait, don't close it.
Go ahead.
I won't close it. I promise.
Oh, was he done? Okay.
Let's go
I
ahead
was
and let
gonna say,
Cerberus
Bro
talk.
Joe.
Let's let Cerberus say
I'm
something.
sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I actually said I didn't really have much of anything.
That's
Hey,
fine.
Bro Joe, do you want to, if I open up a stream, will you come in? I'd like to hear what you have to say about some of your things.
Sure.
I don't know how to send you a link or whatever, but
I-
I don't know what.
I would join too, Fifth Trumpet, if you would have me. Put a link in the private chat, maybe.
Oh, yeah,
You want me to
sure
keep this stream open until you can get a link in the private chat here? You want me to do
I
that?
can't. I don't know how to do that, but
You could take it off live, and we can sit in here, and then he can.
Yeah.
post it.
Okay, let's do that. I'll just let you guys occupy this as long as you want. Okay? Is that cool?
Appreciate it.
okay.
I'm going to head to bed, guys. Hey, I appreciate your having
Half
me.
an hour is cool.
See you, Bruce.
All right.
Take care, man. Have a good night.
Peace and
Good night,
respect.
Bruce.
See ya.
Well, thanks everybody
All
for
right.
showing up on this impromptu hangout. I really appreciate you. Those guys who came up into the side chat as well. I want you all to know that I truly do look forward to the day that we're all great friends. I'm going to end the stream now, but I'm going to leave it open for the guys who are in. If you want to come in, you better do it now. And there is the StreamYard link for anyone. And I'll give you guys just a minute or two before I actually close up shop. Okay. And everyone got to say a little bit of something. No one had anything to shill? No one at all? Really? No one's shilling nothing.
Okay. Possible. We'll be doing a Hangoween on Halloween night. So that means, yeah, we're gonna open up a hangout. You come in costume, and I don't know. We just have some Halloween fun.
Right on. Right on. A Hangoween. That's pretty witty, actually. I like that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, no one's come in. No one's responding. So I'm going to go ahead and close up shop for the night. I'm going to go not live, but leave you guys open. Don't worry about that. Peace and respect to you all. Until next time.
Woo.